um, with all there is to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah, because even just with the two of us last time, and we still took a while.
And we still blew an hour pretty fast.
Yeah, we did. Hopefully my
Okay.
baby will stay asleep that long.
What's that?
I said, hopefully my baby will stay asleep that long.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can make this shorter somehow. So, did both of you guys have a chance to read through the long Making Differences Matter and watch those videos?
I
Yes,
did.
and
It was long, but
Yeah, it's a lot. Okay, so our first question of the night, um, since there's three of us, why don't each of us pick a one of the three paradigms, whether it's assimilation, differentiation, or an integration, and we'll kind of explain what we think that means to us. How's that?
okay.
Anybody want to go first?
I can go for
Um, okay.
it. So what really cleared it up for me, I don't know if you guys looked at the PowerPoint, but with the assimilation, my thoughts on that were that's kind of how just focusing on that we're all the same, just kind of being blind to race or whatever differences there might be. Doesn't matter what it is, it's just kind of being blind to all those things and trying to act like everybody's the same.
Yeah, good point. I guess I hadn't thought, I don't know, these words, I guess, take on new meaning for me in the framework of diversity and equal opportunity. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but okay. Amanda, what do you think?
Um, so I just felt like the discrimination and fairness paradigm and the access and legitimacy paradigm were just complete opposites. Like the first one was we're all the same, like completely blind to all races, all like anything, and so they're all just equal, and that's what they think about. And then the differentiation, like I felt like what it was saying was you're Asian, so let's send you out with. Is that the one where it was like you're Asian, so let's send you out to the Asian market? It's like
Yeah,
they took
that
you and
that helped me understand it better.
yeah. So like the way I understood it was they basically looked at your your general appearance and just kind of assuming that you relate to that group and only putting you with that group instead of trying to take different aspects of things you may have gotten from like education or other experiences, not necessarily involved in your race or other just stereotypical aspects of you that you could contribute to the company. Like it was more on, oh, you're black, so we'll send you out to go talk to black people type of thing. So that's what I got from that.
Yeah, I liked, did you see that one page where it was kind of a funky little breakdown there, but it showed the premise of each of the two, the strategy, the advantages and the disadvantages. So I thought that was really interesting because it does work to their advantage to then have that culture or that race or nationality in their business. I guess the disadvantage, right, then comes when I think it says it pigeonholes them. I think that's the way they said it. So I thought that was good because it's both. It can be a good thing and a bad thing depending on how the company uses it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think just narrowing down to one specific aspect of the person is it could be detrimental, but yeah, you could also take that as advantage as another thing, including the other aspects of how you contribute to the company.
Right. So then it appeared to me that the integration was the ideal paradigm because it's promoting um, equal opportunities for all individuals, recognizing the cultural differences and placing value in those differences. With the key, I think, being there um, using the differences in the right way. And I really liked the case example they gave of that Dewey and Levin, where they were all female, or no, all white staff, I think is what it said at the law firm, all white legal staff. And so then they brought on these colored employees, but then they took the new things that those people brought and used them to perpetuate the expansion of their business, right? That's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, I thought that was a good point, and I think definitely that's the best way to be. Where I think sometimes there's just it's kind of like it's almost a duty, right, to have diversity, but the integration really drove home the point that it's not just a duty, it's an improvement. It's something that is beneficial to a company to have different outlooks and different things. It made me think about, like, if you're in a council or a leadership team or whatever it might be, if you all think the same, then you might as well not even be a team or be meeting together, right? An individual could do the same, but it's when people think different and can bring different perspectives, different ideas to the table. That's the best case scenario, whether you're working in a team or business, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that a lot more here. So we kind of went through maybe a few examples. Can you think of any other examples we didn't cover where where assimilation or differentiation, like personal experiences that you've had with that? I mean, I kind of had a hard time myself, other than the differentiation in the places I've worked. It's like the bosses say they appreciate the differences, but then they don't utilize them. And so it's not, in my opinion, full integration, because then they're still hanging to just differentiation. And does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, we value the fact that you're thinking outside the box, but I don't know. That's the only example I could think of.
Yeah, I really haven't had any experiences where it's like, I mean, I guess living in Utah, like you basically get like a white majority anyways, so I mean, typically, like I haven't really worked with a bunch of different cultures really, and I haven't really been in a work environment where like we were supposed to come up with like different ideas and use like our insights or anything. Like it was basically like, here's your work and this is how you're gonna do it. So I don't really have anything to relate to this. I don't think. I'll keep thinking though.
Well, and I think that we do. I think it's just harder to, I don't know. I'm thinking that I probably do. I just can't put my finger on it in this particular aspect. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the video where Melody Hobson says that color blindness is dangerous. I thought I defined that. What I wrote in my notes is that color blindness means we're pretending to not notice someone's race. So would you agree that color blindness is dangerous?
Yeah, well, I think what really stood out to me was she was just saying how talking about color or race is just something that's really awkward. And and just really uncomfortable for people, and so people just tend to not talk about it. And I feel like that was kind of more of what she was trying to get at towards colorblindness, is just pretending, yeah, just pretending that it doesn't really exist, but then it does, but not like out loud. And so there's just that uncomfortableness, but in silence, I guess. I guess that's what I got from it.
I think I know what you mean though, because what you're saying is you're trying to put on this appearance that you're not affected. Is that kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I can kind of see that, but in your head you're like, oh wow, you're so different, you know?
Yeah, I think people have their thoughts, and yeah, I think color is still a big deal in the U.S. Like, definitely not. Like, I think there's different views on it, definitely, than what it used to be, but I think it's still present and everything. But I think it's just not as talked about as probably it should be.
Yeah, and I think that's the point that this article is trying to make, right? Because they're out there assessing these businesses, trying to show these CEOs and managers how they're falling into either assimilation or differentiation and need to be using integration.
Yeah.
Because I think people do one or the other when it comes to diversity without even recognizing that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think decisions are just subconsciously made on how things are thought of when it comes to diversity and how it's going to be implemented in a company.
Um, let's see. Zach, thoughts on color blindness?
Yeah, that was a interesting. I guess I've never heard that point of view before that she portrayed, but I think it's a good one. I don't know. I guess I on the race, and it could apply to any difference, right? But race is easy to use as an example. I guess in my mind, the best scenario would be where it's not even thought of anymore as a society. We don't even think about it or recognize it. I think it's getting better, but I don't think that we've gotten there. And I guess that was kind of my opinion. But would you guys say that's opposite of what she was saying, or is that in line and a natural product of what would happen? Is you know what I mean? I guess I'm kind of confused on what her point was and if that's totally different than uh, best case scenario that I have thought of in diversity.
Well, I liked that she said, like, she's like, yeah, this instance happened where she was sent down to the servants area when she was going to that meeting or whatever. But she's like, the majority of the time I get treated fine, like there's
Mm-hmm.
no problems or anything. And she's like, the majority of it, like, there's not a problem at all. And I think she was getting to that same point where, like, it's still present, like it is a lot better than what it used to be. But she just wanted to show, I think she just wanted to prove a point that no matter what your race is, you can still get anywhere you want. You can still do what you want to do with your life. And so she just wanted to prove, like, that was she CEO? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
was. Yeah, like only one out of two women that was a CEO in the business area or whatever. I think she just wanted to show that maybe our progress as well as what we could still work on at this point in time.
Yeah, it sounds like most of us are pretty sheltered from being in a community. Well, I don't know about you, Zach. I live in a small town here in Washington, So what we have here, dynamic-wise, we definitely have a race diversity issue with the Hispanics. Yet they probably in the line of work that I'm in, or mostly in, um, unfortunately, they're still thought of as orchard workers, and we are breaking that mold here. Um, anyway, it's just an interesting concept to me because I guess I've never really thought of myself as being colorblind, but it's not like I've lived in a South um, community where, I grew up with, very prejudicial, racist parents, and that wasn't the case. So I think, therefore, and I think as members of the church, wouldn't you agree that, I mean, we are supposed to treat everyone equally and as a child of God, and so therefore, hopefully, we don't look so much at the color of their skin?
Yeah, my wife's from Georgia,
Oh,
so
yeah.
so in the South, and I've been there to visit and whatnot. And I mean, even some of her family members, the words that came out of their mouth were just kind of shocking to me. Just that seems like racism is more, it's still alive there, and
Yeah, that's
um,
kind of what I was thinking is
it was
that,
different. It was kind of a shocker, and I mean, I don't want to throw them under the bus or anything, but it's just kind of how it was, and it's true that it's how they thought. It was weird to me to hear it because yeah, I live in Salt Lake and mostly white, some Hispanics as well, but never heard anybody talk like they were and when they got going on some of their rants and raves. But
yeah, so I can see where this Melody Hobson is probably, um, talking from personal experience in the big city, obviously, Chicago. It's just really, it's almost like a different planet, I guess. And I've never lived in a big city, so I don't know what that's like, honestly.
Well, I have an experience. I actually lived in Hawaii for a little bit, and like whites there are a minority, and so I actually have been on the other side of that, and it's a weird feeling, like just being the minority. Like you definitely have this, like if no one's welcoming, you just kind of think that, like, is it because I'm white type of thing, like I'm not a native here type of thing, and I think that's a big part of racism too. Is I think there's already that mentality of like, oh, people are judging me based on my color, and so like that uniformity is something that I think both sides have to work on to just kind of get over. And I think it is a lot bigger in in areas where there are a lot more different minorities.
Yeah, so that's going to take me back to this question about being color brave and what Hobson meant by that. So, how would you guys think that color braveness, or it says, what do you think color braveness would look like in the workplace?
I would think it'd just be like relating to the I just went blank. um, integration, just more like, okay, we all have differences, but we still should work together as a team, but like still use those differences to our advantage. Like everyone's got their own points of views that could help make this company better,
Mm-hmm.
and to spread out to more diverse areas of whatever they're reaching out to in the company.
I agree. Yeah, that's great. Perfect. I mean, that's what I was thinking too. I think that's kind of what this whole lesson is about, is tying the color brave into integration. Do you agree, Zach?
yeah, I like that statement that we are all on the same team with our differences, not despite them, and I think that goes right along with what you guys are saying. It's like
Absolutely.
with the assimilation, it's just like, oh, we're on the same team, we're all the same, but that doesn't really celebrate differences or different things that people can bring to the table, and I think that's what integration and the TED Talk was all about.
Yeah, great. Um, it says the authors of, sorry, are you done?
Yeah, yeah.
The authors of Making Differences Matter explain that some managers are more comfortable addressing problems with outright discrimination than more subtle diversity problems. Have you ever been in a team, group, or organization where one person's ideas or approach to doing work was hard for the rest of the group to understand because of a difference in background, experience, gender, race, or something else?
Uh,
Yeah, actually, that's kind of interesting because uh, at work, we have a team that works together and kind of manages the group or the work of our group. And I have a good friend on the team who, for whatever reason, her opinions are often different than the rest of the group when there's a personnel decision to be made or process decision to be made, whatever it is. She just seems to be the one that's bringing a different opinion to the table. And I had a discussion with her today actually about that, and I could see it's frustrating obviously if you're always kind of defending your ideas that are different than others, but kind of my point to her was, well, I think if you bring a different opinion to the table, we're better off as a team because we can we may have never thought of that before or from that angle or whatever it may be. And while I think she was concerned about being looked at as an arguer or somebody that's always going against the grain or whatever it is, but anyway, I can see how it's beneficial to our team to be able to look at it from a different point of view and consider all options before we make a decision. But I think that for her, the key part of it is once, and I think this goes to the council talk that we also read from the apostles. It's important once, as a group, you make a decision that's best for the team at that point. Then you're in line and you go ahead with the decision that's made, even if it wasn't your idea that was implemented.
Yeah, those are great examples. I was just thinking when I read this question that I I believe that color of skin does not play an issue at all in this question because we're all different in our backgrounds, experiences, or something else just based on the families we grew up in, whether we even grew up in a family, um, you know, what life was like for us as kids. And then, of course, the older we get, we also have different experiences.
And we all bring something different to the table because we're Mormon, right? Than the average or than other people in the world. I mean, that's just as big of a difference as race or gender or whatever, etc. Whatever you want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I often think of that as well, just because our perspective with the gospel not only changes the way we act, but our thought process, absolutely everything. Let's see. Amanda, did you have an experience of there being some kind of difference in a group setting like that?
I don't know if I really personally have had experience, but I know my husband's had an experience kind of similar to yours, Zach, where um, there's an intern that he works with that she sits right next to him, and they actually went to school together for a little bit, and she's LDS as well, but she's got very different views. She's like Democrat, like very feminist type point of views, just like anti-gun anything, and so like me or my husband and her just have completely different views on most things, and and they have to work together on a lot of different things, and so they just have to kind of take each other's points of views, and they talk to each other, and she could be viewed as like the arguer because she's the one that always has kind of the different view from everyone else. But again, like yours, Zach, where like she's the one that kind of brings the diversity to the table, kind of like what we've been talking about, where she kind of just broadens the points of views that could be brought and how things could be done and everything. So I think that is a good thing. Even if you may be like the one person that has different views, like you definitely have some good things you can bring, even if it's your views don't get used all the time. Like it could just be that they may start thinking more outside the box just because you have those points of views.
Yeah, so would both of you agree that, oh geez, try not to lose my train of thought here, that it's much easier to appreciate and run with those differences as long as the people with those different opinions or differences in background or experience, whatever the case may be, to me, I guess I'm thinking that it really boils down to that those good communication skills, because we all are going to have different opinions. It's whether we become argumentative about our opinion, or because as both of you are describing those situations, sound like Zach, you handled it really well, and I can see where people can get confrontational real easy, just based on tempers or the tone of voice that's being used. But if whoever's in the discussion can help the other person understand, or the group of people understand, that yes, everybody does need to share and your opinions are valued, and don't be afraid to, put it all out there. And that's not always easy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we get in trouble when we're being selfish, I guess, and trying to be right or come up with the best ideas. Or I guess maybe I'm going the wrong way, but I just always think about work. When you're making decisions, it's about what's best for the business, not about looking good for the boss with your bright idea in a meeting or anything like that. It doesn't matter who came up with the idea, as long as the best from the diverse opinions of the group, as long from there as the best decision was made for the team. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter who thought about it, or just being selfless in that way, I think, is important and takes both sides, like you guys are talking about.
Yeah, because otherwise the integration is probably never going to happen if you're being the selfish one. Okay, so last question in this section. The ESPN president they talked about. Okay, so when he answered yes to the questions, do we hire the minority or the person who is most qualified? I had to think about that for a while. Do you believe that this is the right approach to hiring for diversity?
Well, reading this article, there was one thing that was just kind of bugging me, not necessarily in the article, but just something related. Because my brother-in-law, he works for a bank, and he was actually in HR, and there was, I guess, this promotion that was or they were looking for a higher management position. They were trying to find someone to fill it, and I guess they were really trying to create a diversified management. And so my brother-in-law was trying to get this position, and they decided to choose a woman, like a black woman, that was like 2 levels lower, had like way less experience than my brother-in-law, and it was because she was black and woman. They were trying to diversify, but my brother-in-law was still probably more qualified than she was. And so that's where I'm like worried about all this, like, be diversified. Like, I worry about these people that would do a better job, but be like, oh, well, we need to diversify, so we're not even going to look at you. We're going to be looking at this minority group or this minority group that's trying to come in. But at the same time, like, if the minority is the best option, then I think that's great. Like, don't overlook that either. Like, I think not looking necessarily at the minority, not, um, and just looking at qualifications. Like, how is this person going to help this company, and what views could they bring to this company that could be different from what we are doing now? As I think what we need, what like a company needs to look at more than like, okay, well, let's get the minority in here, and then and I think it was like, yeah, choose the minority and the best person. Like, I just think it needs to just be choose the best person, and if it happens to be a minority, then that's great too. Does that make sense? I feel like that's kind of all over the place. But
Yeah, I agree completely. I think a safe way to go about that is make the diversity piece of it a portion of your decision, not the entire decision. So, experience, education, work ethic, and attitude is all parts of your hiring decision as well. And then you add diversity as a piece of that. So I think you could get in trouble, kind of like sounds like the situation you're talking about, whereas if all you're looking for is diversity and you just hire somebody based solely off that. I mean, I think it's important to keep it just a piece of the puzzle rather than the entire puzzle, and that trumps all the other candidates.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think what we're all saying is that we agree with that ESPN president that by answering yes to hiring the minority or the person who is qualified, he didn't answer one or the other. He didn't say we hire the minority or, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because what you're both saying is you don't look at just one, you look at all the pieces of the puzzle, not just one. Because the example you're sharing, Amanda, in my opinion, if you're only looking to diversify based on race, then that too is discrimination. Because then you're discriminating based on qualifications and experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, very interesting. I find this fascinating. Okay, let's move on to Elder Ballard's talk. I too thought this was kind of cool because at first I thought, how does this fit in? But I think it totally fits in. So Elder Ballard's describing a church council, and does the ward council that he described follow the integration paradigm? And if so, can you explain? If not, I can share my thoughts. I think you already kind of talked about it, Zach.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I jumped the gun a little bit.
Oh, that's perfect. So I will just say ditto what you said earlier, and that is that, yeah, we're all bringing, I happen to be in a relief site presidency, so I go to ward councils, but by everybody bringing their personal experience to that ward council and the bishop being willing to listen to everyone's differing opinions and valuing those and um, actually taking opportunity to pray and consider those, whether they might not be the option he would have chosen, that would then to me be integration.
And that takes a great leader. I think it's tempting when you're the one calling the shots to just always go with your ideas or what you think is best, but oftentimes you're going to hear an idea from, in this case, a member of the ward council that's inspired and can be applied. So it takes, I guess it takes a humble leader to be able to recognize that and be willing to implement the new idea that was brought up.
I agree. Okay, so what are the advantages Let's see. What are the advantages to a bishop of counseling with the elders quorum president, relief society president, primary president, and others? What are the advantages?
I think it is just what we've been talking about, where you just bring in different areas with different points of view. I mean, you look at the Relief Society, and they're focusing more on the women of the ward, and so that's what their point of view is going to be on, is based on what's going on with the women or the youth. They'll be focusing on that area. So I think their points of view are going to be based on where they're called to. And so when you bring those all together, then all of a sudden you've got all these different areas that have specific focuses that you can join together to help the whole ward as a whole.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
agree.
Doug.
I was just going to say, what a different group of people, and in different times of life, oftentimes with like the high priest group leader, elders quorum president, relief society president, primary president, they're all involved. Primary president is involved with the little children. Sunday school president is involved with young men and young women mostly, probably, and young men president, young women president. They all see different parts of the ward and can all just, I don't know, just give a good opinion on a bunch of different matters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the visiting teaching coordinator, and so like I get the reports from all visiting teaching. Like I know a good portion of like what the needs of the sisters are in the ward, and then I report to the Relief Society president. If the Relief Society president wasn't there at the bishop or the ward council meeting, then like they wouldn't have any idea of like just the little parts that go into knowing more and more about the ward just comes from the different branches that create the ward. Like a bishop, there's no way a bishop could know everything and be everywhere and do everything and plan everything. So I think that is why there is a ward council. Like there's different parts of a ward, is so that every part can, every need in each part can be fulfilled.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what's so neat about our church. I mean, that's part of Heavenly Father's plan, right? I mean, he doesn't, I don't think the intent is for the bishop to try and run the ward all on his own. Although this leads into the next question, because I have seen a bishop try and do that. And I think it goes back to what Zach was saying. It takes a humble person, because I can see, and I've had a little bit of personal experience with that. I've been a young women's president and a primary president. I haven't been a Relief Society president. But sometimes when you do get a calling like that, you do tend to, I think, well, you just have times in your life where you're not as humble as you should be. And so then you just start thinking that you know what's best for those that you have stewardship over. And so I guess I can see where that happens with bishops. So the question is, have you seen bishops or other church leaders do this?
Not to throw my mother under the bus, but I lived out in Kansas for a little bit. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we were in this branch, and there was probably maybe 15 youth total, and most of them were probably about my age. I was like a mime aide, and my mom was young women's president. And the majority of us were like really into sports, and I think the branch was just it was just really like laid back. Like they didn't necessarily like, it was a lot different compared to like a Utah ward where they had like everything, like they didn't necessarily follow every single rule in the book. And my mom tried to do that, and it caused a lot of havoc and chaos, and there was a lot of angry people, and she was just trying to follow the book. She was trying to do the best she could, but I don't think she really paid attention to what were the actual real needs of the young women. A lot of them needed help, like in families and struggling that way. And I think she was just trying to say, oh, well, we need new beginnings, we need this, we need that, instead of paying more attention to what the actual needs were. And I think if she focused on that and kind of stepped back a little bit and listened, I think she would have picked up on it. And I don't think it would have been as big of a struggle. Like, I think it's important to try and follow the rules of the church, but I think it's also important to, like, let the Lord guide what needs to be helped, even if it may not be right from the book and exactly right on. I think the Lord has more purpose than just that. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict came from in that situation.
Mm.
That's so interesting because, I think when we live in these small areas, kind of like I do, we always, no offense, you guys, but, we always out here make fun of the Utah um, members because we're like, where's this new council coming from? Oh, it must have started in Utah, you know. But out here where you're right, or where you were, Amanda, too, I know that that's why the handbook says what it does, that um, yes, we need to follow the guidelines. I mean, that's why they're there. But I agree completely that Heavenly Father wants us to, more importantly, meet the needs of the individuals. And really, I think the programs sometimes need to be adapted to meet those individual needs instead of trying so hard, because I've done it both ways, and I know that following the handbook, to the letter, that's not what it's meant for. So it really is important to just be prayerful and humble, like you said, Zach, and listen to the needs of the individual. Okay, guys, let's wrap this up if you're okay. The last part here. Okay, the Making Differences Matter article assumes there's some value to companies in promoting a diverse workforce. Do you agree? What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Oh, we kind of already covered that a little bit.
So what was the first part of that question?
How the article is assuming that there's value in having a diverse workforce, but I'm thinking you kind of just answered that with your personal example that you gave of your husband, and that is that there's balance in everything, right?
Yeah.
You don't just, and that's actually what I really liked about this article. I always like the case studies they gave because they're the perfect example. I mean, they talked about how some of those other, let's see, there was the marketing company, and they fail when they're not having balance in all aspects of it, but the balance was from that law firm where they celebrated the differences, and those employees obviously felt valued. They didn't feel like they had been hired just because they were black or just because they were Latino or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, which I think is good. Like, you need to feel like you're appreciated, not just because of your race. Like, you need to feel appreciated because of who you are as a person. And I think that's the main goal. Like, that's the whole purpose of the article, of everything, is people need to be appreciated and looked at as just people, of their personality, of who they are, what they can bring to the table, not because of outside features or cultures you came from or whatever. Like, they can be advantages, but each aspect needs to be looked at.
So Zach, what approach would you take to diversity as a manager?
That's a good question.
I know it would be hard. I mean, I can't imagine because to me, like I said, it's a balance, and I think it's kind of a fine line in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and I go back to kind of our thoughts earlier. I think there has to be a good balance where you're obviously not discriminating, but I don't think diversity can be your only goal. And I think as if you make diversity maybe a portion of a promotion decision or of a hiring decision, and you can always alter that if you really want to value diversity more in your organization, then you can make diversity a bigger portion of your promotion or a bigger portion of your hiring decision. Um, but I think it just goes into the melting pot of everything that goes into a good employee. Is if that's part of what you want somebody to bring to the table, then make it a part of the pie. And this section has been fascinating to me as well because it's opened my eyes a little bit. Too, I think diversity is often looked at in HR just as it's a check mark, right? You have to have diversity, but it has really opened my mind today to the benefits of diversity and how it can help a company. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but it was a rant nonetheless.
I think that's great because the word I liked the most was the benefits that come out of everybody being a little bit different. I would not want to all be the same. That's why Heavenly Father didn't make us all the same, right?
Right.
So that pretty much wraps up that discussion, but then that leads me to our hypothetical problem because my thought is that was not in my list when I wrote up my top 4 because we hadn't, I guess it wasn't on there because we hadn't studied it yet. And now that we have it, in my opinion, it definitely has got to be one of the 4 issues or problems because it obviously is in the Doohickey Company, right?
Yeah, well, that was
There's so many problems in that. I'm just glad that's not a real life scenario that I'm in. We'll just say that much. Holy cow.
yeah,
I
well,
agree.
I had 2 of the problems that I put on there were actually, well, actually, I think I probably could have related all of the 4 problems I put on the Google Doc towards this week's um, lesson. On the Google Doc, I did put kind of the area, like which lesson it would relate to. It's kind of scrambled, and all 4 of them, I kind of just, there's a bunch of different problems listed for each one. So I don't know how we want to do that. Like if we're going to be very specific and just pick one thing. I just know it's supposed to be related to the lessons we've already gone over. And so that's what I was trying to be more specific towards. So like the first one I put like about how the 90% of the managers are white middle class males and somehow related to each other. And the CEO just hires friends or friends of friends, and so they're all going to have kind of that same thinking probably, kind of like what we were talking about, and how there's a great diversity in the manufacturing plant. And then one of them said factory workers just don't understand anything. Like there's definitely a huge gap between the understanding with the managers and the factory workers. And so that was my first problem. The second one was like the workers look tired and unmotivated, and so I kind of brought that towards the Auto Wizard.
Oh, that's okay. That's where you were correlating that one too?
Yeah, the Auto Wizard, and I also I put making difference matter on that. Nope, I don't think I was trying to do that. I think I was thinking the Auto Wizard one and the Army Crew for that one.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because I'm all about motivation too.
Yeah. We talked about how like we didn't think they were motivated, like they weren't working together as a team. So that I think was a big deal. And then the Auto Wizard one, like people just didn't have motivation to do it because there wasn't good leadership. There wasn't like they didn't feel appreciated or anything. And then I had grumblings about poor communication, back talking to the supervisor acts insecure, poor quality products, and I brought that towards the Army Crew. Um, that could also go towards the Auto Wizard as well. Um, about how like leaders need and also Elder Bednar's video where leaders need to observe, listen, discern, and share. Get tensions out, which we talked about with Army Crew. Find a way to work together as a team, like set goals as a team, and have leaders that are good at leading, so there can be trust and respect. And then the last one, it was hard because I'm like I already went through the whole thing because I just kind of mushed stuff together to put under each section. But the last one I just put the don't hire women that they can't lift more than 20. Don't hire women because they can't lift more than 25 pounds as they need to do their job. I just think that's high discrimination, which we could relate to the Melody's video on making differences matter, where there are women out there that's not going to be a problem, but because of that mentality, then they're not even going to get looked at, type of thing, and that they could probably bring more to the table than just having men on there. So those are my 4 things that I brought up. But yeah, once again, they are all jumbled together and mushed, and there's multiple things under each one. So
Yeah, so are you guys under the impression, or I think what we have to do by week 5, if I'm understanding this assignment right, is we have to actually choose 4. I mean, that's why it's saying, right? Select 4 and 4 issues or problems, brainstorm the approaches, and then I think we have to actually, I think the paper for that week is actually identifying, what the issue is, what the problem is, and what the solution is for each of those 4 problems that we choose as a team. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I understand.
Okay, good.
And I haven't. I saw the Google Doc. I've read the case. I haven't documented my 4 choices yet. If it's okay, I will by next week. And then maybe next week we can kind of make a plan as to how we'll finish up the paper and get it into final draft form.
Yeah,
Did you guys look at the example?
Go ahead.
Did you look at the example?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good format and pretty easy to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, problem solution, right, for
Yeah,
each of the areas.
yeah.
So I think that seems pretty I mean, it kind of comforts me a little bit in that, I mean, with these group discussions, we're all kind of on the same page, so it kind of makes sense that if we agree that, things like communication is one of the issues, and diversity, and motivation, depending on what 4 we choose. So I guess, yeah, by next week for sure we need to vote on those 4 issues, so that we just kind of divvy them out and kind of write up what we think for each one.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. And I don't know if you guys like this, but we could even split up, once we decide on the problems, we could even split up the problems, and we could each write one of the sections and then just kind of combine them, and then in the final draft mesh them together, make sure they work. And
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Thank you. You said it better than I did. Because to me, it would be too hard. I would rather, just as an example, take communication, write my little problem solution on that, because to me it would be too hard to coordinate with the rest of the group. But yet, whoever puts the paper together, yeah, that way they're just getting submissions, easy to put it together and submit it, right?
Yeah, be good.
Okay, well then, let's see. I think just you, Zach, and I don't think Michael's contributed to the Google Doc yet either.
Oh.
So I'd be happy to put something on our little discussion board that just says that needs to be there really no later than next week, so that we can vote on that and move forward, because it's due the following week.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be prepared to put those on there, and then I'll also, sounds like you, Marnie, decided which you'd like to do communication. I'll kind of come with one that maybe I find interesting and would like to write my portion as well. So
Okay. All right. So are we going to meet again next Tuesday? Same time?
works for me now that I figured this Google thing out. Hopefully it'll be a little easier. And I can be the discussion leader next week. Sounds like both of you have already had a turn, so I'll just plan on doing that.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah,
Now,
thank you.
tell me, I guess our teacher posted an instructional video on how to get these going, right? Is it pretty easy to do?
Well, I've just been starting them, so I can just keep doing it, so it's consistent. And
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. That would make it much easier.
I know. I appreciate it, Amanda, because you seem to know what you're doing. You've got it down. One less thing for me to worry about. If you don't mind, I think that's great.
Yeah, I saw your link pop up, and that was a lifesaver. So I was like, "Oh, there it is. Good." I
okay,
think I was trying to add you guys as Google Plus friends or whatever it was, and then I saw your link, so that's how I got here.
okay,
Great. Okay. Well, good luck, you guys, this week with your assignments, and we will. I'll send out that little thing, and then we'll just plan to meet again next Tuesday with Zach as the group leader.
Okay. And then, Marnie, is it you submit the writing assignment, discussion leader only? Is that what
Okay.
happens
So
there?
good. I'm glad you brought that up because that is what it says. But I know you. I'm sure you did it, Amanda. So I'll do it this week. I'm just curious, like, how do you get rid of that? I don't want it to stay on my assignments due, but I wasn't the discussion leader last week, so how do I get rid of it?
I don't think you can. I've had that where like it's open to everybody, but only certain people submit it, and it just has to stay there. And then once it's
So it has
graded,
to
then
stay there. Okay, that's
yeah.
cool.
I know it's annoying. I hate it too, but
I'm one of those people that I just want to get rid of it. I don't want it showing on there.
yeah.
I'm the same way.
So yep, I'll get this week submitted for our group, and you won't have to do anything else for that. Alrighty.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, have a good week. Thanks,
See
you
you.
guys.
Bye.